everyone. Woo! Welcome to the next episode of Sass and the Beard. We are excited, everyone, to have Judge Ben Cross with us today. Welcome, Judge.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's been probably a year or two since I've
It's
made
been a
my
little
appearance.
while.
Yes.
Yeah, we're so glad to have you here.
And if you are familiar with our, he has come on several times to discuss with us, kind of the ongoings of the casino issue whenever there are, updates that are big or just things that need explanation. And also things that aren't related to casino he's talked to us about before.
Yeah, for sure. But this week we are here to really talk about the casino because you guys have an interesting agenda for next week. The fight for who would get the casino license has kind of died down in the last few months as everything played out, and we kind of got new application period, got new rules based on court rulings. And so just really excited to have you here tonight to help answer questions and talk about what's happening, what's going to be on the agenda next week. And if folks are are viewing online, if you're watching live, please drop your questions for Judge Cross in the comments, and we will get to those as soon as we can. So, Judge Cross, to get started, what do folks need to know about what is happening right now with the application period? A lot of folks have been asking us, what do they need to know about the application period? How is that going to play out? What's going on?
The Racing Commission opened a new window about 2 weeks ago. That window will officially close on June 11th. They'll meet on June 12th to close the application window. During that time, they will accept applications from qualified applicants that are qualified pursuant to Amendment 100. And that 30-day window is a 30 calendar day, so it's not a business day. And the Racing Commission even went so far as to afford people the opportunity to submit on the weekends. So if you call the Racing Commission, they'll meet you on a weekend. So that was all to the casino vendors. And that application window, again, is about halfway through at this point. Okay. And it's a fact there's only one qualified applicant at this time. They have yet to submit their application. Okay. And it's one of those things, there's been so much litigation. They want to make sure every I's dotted and every T's crossed. So that process is ongoing with Cherokee Nation Entertainment. And as we learned today, we had a justice that sponsored a resolution for Gulfside Casino Partnership. Okay. Since the ruling in October, I've had about a half a dozen casino vendors, some of the same ones from 5 years ago, some new ones. I've been in contact with Boyd Gaming, Churchill Downs, the Lucas family out of Kentucky, and then of course Gulfside and Cherokee Nation Entertainment. So those have all five been back in, and I've met with all of them. I afford everybody equal opportunity to review, what they have to say. Mm-hmm. And so I think out of respect to the process, it would behoove me to meet with everybody that wants to meet, and that's what I've done to this point. So here we are, a week out from our next quorum court meeting. That will be the only quorum court meeting that does fall within the open application window. And I guess that's why Justice Scott proposed this resolution before the agenda cut off yesterday.
Okay. Well, before we start talking about what's going to happen at the meeting next week, I think that when you ran for office, you probably did not intend to become an expert on casino law in Arkansas. But over the course of the last few years, that's, I think, very much happened to you, that you have become probably the main expert on this. Is from the county judge perspective of how to handle these issues that go on with bringing a casino in under Amendment 100. And so, I think the question that we get sometimes from folks is like, what made you decide that Legends is the right partner and continue to stick with them as this process has played out?
Historical data. I mean, they have a proven track record, and I'm not talking about just the gaming industry. I'm talking about as a worldwide business. They're in 27 different countries. They're in multiple states. They have what I call a diversified portfolio. They're in aerospace defense. They have contracts with the U.S. State Department. They have enough economic stability and a track record to develop far more than a casino here. And of all the vendors from 5 years ago till 5 weeks ago, everybody but them have one singular purpose: buy 20, 30 acres, put a casino resort on it, and operate that facility. Whereas Cherokee Nation Business, the parent company of Cherokee Nation Entertainment, they're already at 325 acres and still purchasing land. It's because they have a development plan that goes far beyond a casino. It far exceeds any other expectation that I would have out of a business group. And you have their financial backing. They don't need finance from anybody but themselves. They are the bank, so to speak. And they're so diversified that, I mean, let's face it, casinos, especially with one of these now, where you can bet Saracen and all that, you know, you've got to wonder, does brick and mortar casinos make sense 10 years from now, 20 years from now? We don't know. But what I do know is what they've purchased in land and their overall development plan, when this plateaus at some point in the future, they have a future plan.
Good.
And I found nobody else that came with that mindset.
Yeah.
And so they do have a plan. They do know the next step. They do have the ability to stimulate their own economy, so to speak, by bringing in another business, another manufacturer. And what I say to everybody, if you took the word casino out of this altogether and you said this was any other industry that was going to come to Pope County, invest hundreds of millions of dollars, create thousands of jobs, you'd be on the national news what a breakthrough this is.
Right.
But it's so contentious because of the word casino. But my position as the office of county judge has to look at the economics of it and has to look at what is going to stimulate our economy, what is a future plan, and whether it was put here by other Arkansas voters or not is out of my wheelhouse at this point. So that's why I have stuck by CNB this whole time, because their methodology is proven. They've never backed out of a situation. They can definitely do whatever they say they're going to do, and it's just the stability of their program. I mean, no other company has come to my door and said, "Oh, by the way, we operate this business in Israel. We operate this business in Germany." I mean, that's the kind of stability and long-term partnership I'm looking for, and they've been the only one to provide it. So.
Okay. That's good information. I think you're right.
Well, and I just kudos for that information, because I agree with you 100% that if the word casino was not involved in this transaction at all, we would have no struggles from other legislative officials in our community. We would, nobody would take a stand against some issue, a business.
Sir, don't forget that we were opposed to a neighborhood market, a
True.
Walmart neighborhood market. So
that was a long
will say that you're
time
not right
ago.
about that.
We
was a
were
long time
opposed to
ago.
widening West Main.
Yeah,
there you
I mean, well, but $300 million. We
Right.
weren't opposed to Americold, like expanding their
ConAgra,
Yeah, very
like
true, yeah.
like that.
extensions of the nuclear plant. I mean, yes, I mean,
Exactly. I mean, those are entities that have provided long-term jobs and good-paying jobs to people in our community, and there are high hopes that this will be the same thing, and there are fears that it won't. And like, I get that. I understand that people are afraid, but I mean, come on, like this has been 6 years now, right? We're 6 years into this, and I think everybody believes that even the people that are proposing other vendors don't really want there to be a casino. Like, we have anti-casino people sponsoring legislation for other casinos to muddy the waters. And
Let's get into that. So that's on the agenda for next week. I thought it was very surprising to see Justice of the Peace Lane Scott propose a resolution to support Gulfside Casino. He's been one of the most outspoken opponents of any casino vendor, but now has kind of changed his tune. And I know you can't necessarily speak to his motivation, but what do you think about that potential for the quorum court to pass a resolution supporting another casino?
I don't see that the mathematics of it will work out. It takes 7 of 13 justices to support a resolution. And I don't see that mathematically working out in favor of the resolution. I think, again, CNB has the track record. They've been a constant in our community. sure, you can see economic development agreement passed and everybody tries to one up one another. And
Yeah.
that's what we saw today.
Yeah.
And it'd be easy, but we have to say, okay, who's been here the constant?
Right.
Who's paying the property taxes on that 325 acres?
Yeah.
The school millage, the hundreds of thousands that have been donated to nonprofits and community events over the last 5 years. Where has anybody else been?
Yeah.
And I have one JP that. As you can imagine, all 13 of them are getting an onslaught right now and have been since October. But he has a simple question. Where's your office in town? I'd like to come visit it. Where's the land you own here? I'd like to go see it. How much in property taxes have you paid in the last 2 or 3 years? And, what have you donated to our local nonprofits?
Right.
If the answer to all those is no, which it is, then he says we're probably wasting each other's time.
Yeah.
And that's a simplistic way of looking at it. Who has been a constant? Who's been paying their taxes here this whole time as a dedicated community member, chamber member, Alliance for Economic Development? I mean, you just go down the list. That one group has ingrained themselves and never left.
Yes.
And that's a big thing. So I just don't see the mathematics working out for the resolution. In a sense, all these people had desired to get their program out there. So this will be Gulfside's moment to shine and come to the table and say what they have to offer. And that's why I attended today. People were amazed that I would go to their announcement today. I'm like, why not? I want to afford everybody an equal opportunity. I've dealt with Gulfside now for 6 years, so I know all those guys by first names. There's no animosity there. It's just this is a business decision,
Right.
First and foremost.
Well, that's your job as the leader of the county to make. I mean, this was put in your hands by the state of Arkansas, and you have to make this decision. You have to make it to the best of your ability for the betterment of the citizens of Pope County. Like, that's your job, and you can't you can't take into account, well, that guy's nice and that guy's not. Like, as a person or a personality, you take into account, what has this group done for the community, for the Pope County, for the, as a whole. Where is this? Because that's what's at stake for your decision and for the citizens.
Yeah.
And the follow-up to part 2 of why would I just support one is I don't want the Racing Commission to have to be pressured to make multiple decisions.
Right.
We've seen that go down the wrong path into litigation the past 5 years.
Yeah.
And I frankly just want to give them one decision to make.
Right.
Give their consultant one decision to look at. And that will lessen the opportunity. This is the first time in 5 years there is no litigation.
Yeah.
There is nothing out there. Do I anticipate somebody will file suit over something? Sure. I mean, that's where we're at.
Anybody can file a lawsuit.
Anybody can file a lawsuit.
Right, yeah.
But to lawyer-proof this to the extent we can, I only want to give them one choice, and that makes it simple. So.
Well, and I think that's a really important point when you think about the issue we hear a lot from people who oppose the casino is the local control issue, right? I would much rather see that issue decided locally through our elected officials than through the state, where it is more, they are not going to have the same necessarily, the same goals long term, or be as in touch with what Russellville is looking at and what we need, Pope County needs in the near and long term future. We were talking a little before the show about the need to expand the jail here and to do other things that need to be invested in. Your entire job is not the casino. Folks may not realize that.
Believe it or not, yeah.
Your entire job is not vetting casinos. You are actually focused on other things that matter in this county. And so, I really appreciate the way that, I tend to trust your opinion on it, because I know that you look at the fine print, you look at, every aspect of it, and not just like the pictures and what we think we might be getting promised. And so, to me, that's been really important. Do you think that when we come up to this quorum court meeting next week, is this going to be a meeting that's important for people to attend and be vocal about, or maybe reach out to their quorum court members in advance and let them know what they think? How can the public engage in this issue if they feel strongly in support of one casino or the other?
By all means, email your respective justice. All of them have a .gov email. on our county website, popecountyar.gov. Easy to find them. That'd be the most simplistic approach. Second to that, we don't have a big quorum courtroom, so we do live stream everything. You can go to our YouTube channel and watch it live stream. And but I think since this is 5 years down, people are exhausted of this.
So tired.
And they, whether you're for or against or in between or don't care, people are exhausted of the process.
Right.
And they, I've had overwhelming support for my decision to choose Cherokee Nation, just because people have seen the results, and I don't see that changing historically. And I don't think packing the courtroom it's certainly not going to change Amendment 100. It's not going to change a racing commissioner's decision. As you pointed out, no racing commissioner on the current commission lives in Pope County. Mm-hmm. The nearest one is Mr. Post, lives in Franklin County. And then the next ones are Little Rock and Fort Smith. So no sitting racing commissioner has a stake in the game here locally. Mm-hmm. And so this is our decision locally if we're going to exercise it. And so that's why I just want to give them one valid applicant and let them move on from there. So.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. One of the questions we've gotten online in the chat so far is, why is Lane Scott opposed to Cherokee Nation business? I know that's speculative, but do you have any kind of answer for Marie, who's asking that question?
If you followed a few of our last quorum court meetings, they've specifically Lane Scott, he's exercised a lot of voiced opinions in our quorum court meetings regarding Native American history and his onslaught against Justice Jordan Sowers. I think that's very openly biased. So I don't know his motivation. I know he just has a distinct disdain for Cherokee Nation business. He makes no bones about he has a distinct disdain for me. And so, it's just strange bedfellows that have gotten together over this. And it's a business decision, and I don't know why he is. There's been others that have come to the table, Churchill Downs, Boyd Gaming, all massive groups, and he hitched his wagon to the Gulf side today. So.
Yeah,
that's very interesting. Yeah.
Well, and like the presentation from Gulf side, I'm sure was nice. Like that, it's not that hard to come up with some graphics and write down some figures, and maybe they have done a huge level of of research on what they could potentially do. But one of the things that impressed me with Cherokee Nation was they have grown in their in like what they are wanting to do for the community. In that, like when they started, they said, "Well, we're gonna have this setup. Here's what we're gonna do." And then later they looked at, well, we've got this time. Let's really kind of delve in and see, so it's very specific to the River Valley area, like all the decorative things and the way that the buildings are set up, like all of that takes into account like scenery and all this other stuff. It's not just a hotel and casino, like it's this whole thing. And I appreciate the fact that they have been here long enough to say, here's what we're going to do. And I don't really feel like we're going to get that from any other vendor. So.
Chuck Garrett will tell you, our first meeting back in 2019, they came in and laid down a pretty picture. It wasn't a pretty picture. They were telling me, well, we're drawing from the nuclear plant in the background. We're drawing from the lock and dam. And really, the layout looked like the lock and dam. Yeah. And I'm like, no. Y'all got to get this. Same thing for Choctaw.
Please draw from other areas. Yeah. Thank you.
When the Choctaw came to town, they laid one out there, and I said, that looks like a hospital. It looked like a 5-story hospital. I'm like, no, I don't get it. And so the CNB took our advice. They went back and they've worked and created. And from a construction standpoint, they are at least a year ahead into the design process ahead of anybody else.
Yeah.
So
the quickest route to getting construction is through Cherokee. And when it comes to opposition from anti-casino or maybe opposite other casino folks, like I feel like we have reached the pinnacle of how much could be done. Yes, there are going to be lawsuits. Yes, there are going to be, but as far as like just stopping the process, I feel like we are far beyond that, you know, any longer. And so in my opinion, like, why are we still trying to stop the process?
Yeah, well, and I think you pointed out something important there. Where we're talking about, like, you know, not just a pretty picture, but what's actually, like, legitimately in the contracts, what's actually going to happen. And, you know, we've seen some conflicting information there. You know, today there was a lovely presentation from Gulfside about what they plan to do, and there were some images in there that we've seen that look like a beautiful resort. But then we also have seen that there are images that were submitted like plans to the city planning commission
are completely
and they don't look the same,
different,
right? And that to me, look, I'm single. I'm on online dating, and so like if somebody's picture doesn't match, it's a big red flag.
Are we
right?
getting catfish?
And I feel like I'm like, are we getting catfished? Is that what's happening here? I'm very concerned.
Well, and you know, I have to look at that. You know, that's part of the decision making process. So I do have what was presented to the Russellville Planning Commission and approved to be put on a tract of land on Bradley Cove Road, and it was about a 30,000 square foot brick structure that you know I affectionately called the truck stop, but it looks kind of like an interstate rest area, and that's what was presented for factual back when this process started originally.
Yeah.
And so the pictures presented today, again, they look just like what was presented to the commission and everything, but they're not reality. And so a lot of the things I hope the justices will ask next week is this a single phase project? Or are you proposing a phased project like you did before? Because before it was a small, I call it the Walgreens version of a casino. It was a small facility that was going to be put in effect until they could expand. And so, is this concrete first and final, or is it going to be a complete project? Secondly, before the county was offered $20 million in a cashier's check. And now we've suddenly upped the ante. And so I kind of want to know where those finances were coming. Because if Gulfside were not financially stable a few years ago to do more than a 30,000 square foot temporary structure that the Russellville Planning Commission saw, and we were only prepared to offer $20 million, where's this windfall of money coming from?
Right, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a great question. So we have a few questions in the chat so far. Let's see here. Somebody said, with a comment about how the citizens may be exhausted with casino business, when is a reasonable time window we can expect a casino actually being built? Alex said, I think an actual structure going up will give anyone supporting the casino some well-needed relief. What do you think about that?
I know that if we get through the closing of the window, there'll be a 30-day period while they do their analyzation, get their consultant report, and so sometime mid-July, obviously 30 days from June 12th to July 12th, sometime mid-July, there should be an awarding of a license. If there's no litigation to that point, that some kind of injunction gets issued, and the license is validly issued and in hand, you'll probably see another 60 to 90 days of breathing period. Let's make sure everything's done. Again, they're so far ahead in the design process that hurdle's already jumped. They already have their contractors. They already obviously have the land. And so I think that you could realistically see dirt turning late fall.
Okay.
I think before the end of this year, you'll see dirt turning, pending no litigation and a smooth process.
You heard it here, folks.
Listen, me and Nathan have only been saying since 2018 you'll see it sometime in the next 2 years.
Sometime in the next 2 years.
We've only said that for 6 years now, so I believe you more than I believe us. This time, I believe it.
Fall of 2024.
Well, some people say, maybe by Christmas, and I have to say, which Christmas?
Which one?
Right,
Which Christmas? Yeah.
But, with that in mind, there are folks out circulating a petition to try to get an initiative on the ballot in November that would potentially remove Pope County, change up the process, require some local election approval. What are your thoughts? So the deadline for that is July 5th for them to turn in signatures initially. Looking at maybe having a license issued in middle of July. How do you think those things play out? How are you feeling about the potential for a ballot initiative that could change some of this?
Based on history, when they attempted this a couple of years ago, they had the window of opportunity of a primary to solicit from primary voters. They don't have that this time, so they're late getting started. They now have to canvass 50 counties instead of 15, so that cross section got much bigger, and of course we know the Choctaw Nation is funding it, so it's kind of funny or strange bedfellows again that the casino is funding the anti-casino movement for obvious reasons. And so I think it's going to be a very hard threshold to achieve by July 5th to get 90,000 plus valid signatures. You're going to have to collect probably 130, 140 to sift through. And the cross-section of 50 counties and the late start with no primary polling places to hit, I think you're going to be very struggling to get to that threshold.
Yeah.
And so, and of course, I'm sure you all copying what canvassers are telling this bunch over telling that bunch.
Yes,
so,
we have. We've been talking about that over the last
Yeah.
couple of weeks about how there's been some disconcerting communication from canvassers to citizens when signing the petitions. And I'm there. There was a question on.
Did I miss one?
No, it was what can stop this, and I think we basically right now, of all the things aside from litigation that has actual legitimacy, this would be the only real thing aside from just like the governor or somebody being like, "Hold on, wait a minute," But even that would be like.
Well, actually,
weird.
in this case, the governor approved the rule changes in about 3 days.
Yeah.
And so that really expedited the process to the legislature and back to the commission. And so I think everybody is ready to put this to rest.
Right.
And I always compare it, regardless of your opinions about medical marijuana. I'm against it. Y'all may be for it. But the fact of the matter is,
Definitely for it.
We just look like we're for it.
Stereotyping here. The fact of the matter is the state of Arkansas voted for it.
Yes.
Polk County voted against it, but we're selling it 7 days a week on
Right.
South Arkansas.
Yeah.
And that's against federal law. And so I always equate this to how do we expect to stop casino gaming that is legal when we can't stop something that's federally illegal right down the street that the voters of Arkansas put in place.
Right.
And we have to respect what those voters did, just as we have to respect what the voters did here.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that's when I'm talking to groups that are mixed in their emotions about this, it's an economic decision. Take the name casino off of it. It's B, the same voters that put this in place, put that in place, and we have to honor that. And by the way, we're not getting any tax dollars off of that.
Right.
So.
Well, and that's the way it is with every ballot initiative, right? I mean, we raised the minimum wage in 2018, and it applies to everybody, whether you supported it or not. And
Right.
we do that with things all the time, that if a statewide constitutional amendment is passed, it applies to everybody because the majority rules in that. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But before we wrap up on casino stuff, is there anything else you think folks need to know, or any common questions you're getting that people seem concerned about or unfamiliar with? Anything that you want to address on the casino that maybe we haven't touched on so far?
Kind of what we touched on. A lot of people said, well, why don't they just go out there and start doing something? Clear some fences, do something. And the process is already in place to act quickly once this is resolved. But this is the biggest domino to fall in Pope County history. This will be the catalyst for so much growth. So I think if I was going to impart any of my knowledge of this event all the way, you would not believe the amount of phone calls that I get, Mayor Teague gets, that the chamber gets, we're waiting to come as soon as this is decided.
Right.
So this will be the catalyst. This will be the first domino that creates the domino effect. And it'll be all your great name chain restaurants. It's your great chain hotels. All of them are wanting to come here once that first chip falls, so to speak. And so it's going to be a catalyst for growth that we've never seen here. And that's why you wonder why CMB has over 300 acres and growing. It's because they want to control that development around themselves to be high-end, upper-class stuff. And so to control the development, if you go out to Hard Rock Tulsa, which they own, that's a whole nother discussion about 5 years ago. Everybody, get Hard Rock. I'm like, you do realize they are Hard Rock too.
Yeah,
But if you go out there and you look 20 years ago, they were out in the middle of nowhere in a cow pasture. And now what's around them is Walmart supercenters and restaurants. And so the reason they buy up so much acreage is they can enhance that development and control who their neighbors are and have great neighbors. And we have all these neighbors sitting in the wings waiting to come. So this will be a true catalyst for growth. And
well, and I think that not just in the kind of retail, what we kind of think of retail economic development, but even in the grander scheme of things, like you and Mayor Teague just spent some time with some others in Washington, D.C., talking to our representatives about different aspects of economic development and how the federal government can get out of the way or put thumbs on the scale in our area to help in certain areas, whether it's with the situation with who manages the creek? What's the
Prairie Creek Corps of Engineers?
Yeah, the Corps of Engineers. Sorry, I had a brain moment, but the Corps of Engineers and just other aspects of the government that we can take advantage of with our representatives, saying, "Hey, we want this for our area."
And there's a news flash there. I'm sure the mayor informed you that we asked Congressman Westerman face to face, sitting in the Capitol, fix the Prairie Creek Bridge, which is in Bonadilla Trails.
Right.
And so we've got pictures of it to him and everything. And you'd think, go to D.C. with this list. And we had a list of other things.
Right.
Dr. Jones from Tech went with us. We had a great congressional meeting. But the bridge on Bonadilla was top of our list to get on Congressman Westerman because he's the head of the Natural Resources Commission.
Yeah.
And so it's foremost in his mind now that we'd like that bridge replaced in Bonadilla because that's such an asset to the city.
Right. Yeah. The number I get, the number of calls I get about
it's that attack flies on it.
And in my ward, the most calls, especially right now, I get are trash, and second to that are Bonadilla. And so like that, it is very important to a lot of the citizens in my district for sure. Of like, when are we going to fix this?
Yeah.
So I was happy about that.
I'm just going to put my prediction out there that, you talked about that, like this being the first domino to fall, and then we'll see like the chain restaurants and these other businesses come in. And my prediction is if you are the one that gets Red Lobster to come. This will no longer be Pope County. It will be Cross County. It's going to change. That's my prediction. Because whoever brings Target and Red Lobster to Russellville
and a Sam's Club,
they'll rename the city after.
You are forever in office. You will always be. There'll be a statue to your honor in the town square. So that's great. Now. So, okay, we've talked a lot about casino, but I do want to give you a minute to talk about if there's anything else that folks need to know about that's going on. I know like we said, your entire job is not the casino. You actually do a lot of other really important things. What else do folks need to know about that you're working on right now for the county?
Capital investment. I'm in my second term. I'm only going to seek one more term. I never sought out this position initially to make it a career. I sought it out to make change, and the biggest handicap of Polk County was our infrastructure. Everything we have is 40 to 50 years old. The jail, the ambulance service, our public works department. So currently, we took the county's portion of ARP money, rescue plan money, was $12.4 million. We put all that into capital infrastructure. So we bought 26 acres on Old 124 to put a new jail in the future on. That's paid for and secured. We've cleared it. It's a great piece of property adjacent almost to the interstate there. We've constructed a new coroners facility. Pope County had never, in the history of Pope County, had a dedicated coroners facility. It's a travesty that if someone, your loved one died or was in a car wreck, you went to the Pope County Road Department. And that was just an embarrassment. And so we built the first ever dedicated coroners facility on some property that I purchased my first year in office out at Gumlog. We're currently constructing a new public works facility out there. And we're currently constructing a new ambulance service adjacent to Station 3 of the fire department in the Tech Curves. Okay. So those capital improvements are my main focus and beyond casino. And so those are, if you go out there and see they're going up right now. The ambulance service, the public works facility, anticipated to be completed in May of 25. At that time, we will, you should, if you kept following, we have sold our current facilities to Citicorp in a juncture with the city. By the way, y'all got the hardest working mayor in Arkansas.
For sure.
And so shout out to Mayor T.
Yeah.
But we're at a new, like I said, a new threshold with a responsive quorum court, a responsive city council, responsive mayor, our other 5 mayors. I met with them all today. And so we have a very concerted effort to move Pope County forward. And the final thing I would like to see completed, if elected to another term, be my final term, and I'll move on, let somebody else take over, is we have to build a new jail. We have over a 40-year-old jail, over a 30-year-old 911 center, and both are in need of expansion. Both are in need of more people. We're just growing. Our realized population is 82,000. And I probably said this last time I was here. We provide 100% of the services to 100% of the people, 100% of the time for 75% of the revenue, because only 64,000 filled out the census. So we know we missed a quarter of the population in the last 2 census, but we're still providing all those services.
Right.
You in the city are, we in the county, we're still providing those, and that takes money. And we're fixing to experience this phenomenal growth that's going to just keep going. Take casino out. Forget a casino even coming. We would be at about 110,000 by the year 2045, just based on the growth over the last 25 years.
Yeah.
So we know what's coming. Even without that, we know what's coming, and we have to keep up with the times. And unfortunately, we've been way behind the times. So that's why it's infrastructure, move on. And so that will be the next big hurdle, is to seek out funding for a jail. Russellville's our biggest customer, so Russellville's got to have the biggest say in the play, and we have to have a new 911 center. When 911 went operational in 1994, they took about 40,000 calls a year. Last year they took 200,000. And there's not another.
It's a tiny facility.
It's tiny.
It's tiny.
And there's not physically another place to put a human body at a console to answer those calls.
Right.
And the last time I checked, people want to answer 911 calls.
They do like that.
And
they
so
do like that.
this is all about a new jail facility to double our capacity. We can't hold people accountable in this county any longer for the crimes they commit. We're overcrowded. We're holding nothing but. The sheriff has a great saying: when we no longer can hold the people we're mad at, we can only hold the people we're afraid of. And so every Monday is a triage, like an ER, to get with the circuit judge to determine, well, this was a lesser felony than this felony. Now, let's don't forget, we've got 12,000 active misdemeanor warrants just between the sheriff's office and the Russellville Police Department right now, misdemeanor. And those are the people that affect you and I.
Right.
Yeah, a guy hauling 100 pounds of dope through Pope County on I-40 needs to be dealt with. But it's the guy that hits you at Maine and Arkansas with no insurance, driving on suspended, that we have no mechanism of enforcement to hold accountable. And so that's my message going forward is we've done all this to this point with money in hand. And now we have to find some funding opportunities to build a 400-bed jail and a new 911 center.
And so you're telling me that the plan for that is not a Netflix special?
Yeah, no Netflix. You'll not be signing an agreement to see the inmates take over the Pope County Jail.
All right,
it's just not happening. But it's no Netflix there.
Okay, I guess I can go with that.
Yeah, not a sponsor of, but we do have a sponsor of the show, and Plant Parlor has been the best and most wonderful sponsor of our show from very early on here in this studio, and they have provided us with a lovely trophy. Not that they intended for it to be the trophy that we use,
Used to house a plant.
but we could not let it go. That it's this beautiful golden ass. And as we end
That's
the
my
show,
nickname on the dating
beautiful
profiles.
golden ass.
Yeah.
That's your handle.
That's my dating profile name. Yeah.
So this week, at the end of the show, we like to give away the golden ass, and Judge Cross has refrained.
It is very cheeky.
He has refrained from giving his point of view on who the winner should be
We
this
usually
week.
don't put that on people who hold public office other than you. But personally, I'm nominating Lane Scott. That's who I'm
Gotcha.
nominating
Yeah.
for the Golden Ass. He's probably like the most nominated person on the show in the last couple of years. Bless his heart. Bless his heart.
Yeah.
Isn't that a good Southern curse? Like, bless his heart.
Well, there's a lot.
Well,
I'm sure there's a whole lot of things that have caused him to.
You know what?
do
He's probably
that.
nominated me for
And-
the Golden Ass several times in his own.
In his
life.
own, yeah,
So that's
yeah.
okay.
He's got his own
It's fair.
award.
It's fair.
Yeah.
Well, Judge Cross, I really appreciate you being here and talking with us about this and letting us joke around with you and stuff. You've always been a good sport about it. And coming to answer questions. I know there's a lot of confusion. This has gone on a long time. I'm sure there are many other things you'd rather talk about on the day-to-day, but I really do appreciate you coming and giving folks this information because it does matter. It does matter. This local stuff is gonna affect our community for decades moving forward. It's gonna have a huge impact on our economy, and I'm excited about it personally. I think that it's finally on its way. So. Thank you so much for answering questions.
Yes.
Anything else?
Don't forget that this election season, some of these elected officials have opponents,
Yes.
including Mr. Scott.
Including Mr. Scott. Yeah.
If you would like to see some changes made in those areas, you should vote for their opponents.
Absolutely. We'll do some interviews with folks as
right.
we get closer to the election. So,
Yeah.
all right.
Thank you all for watching. Please share this video with your friends. Let them know what's going on locally, politics and otherwise, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.